Are you sure you won't regret pushing yourself that hard? My sister-in-law, Amanda, used to mock me, calling me a single woman with low income, even though I fully supported her son's education. She spent all the family savings on her own jewelry and entertainment, without using a penny for her son. Despite her disdain for me, she had the audacity to watch me invest in my nephew's education without any remorse. Perhaps she thought I was borrowing money from somewhere, assuming I'd eventually regret it. Amanda betrayed my brother, who was deeply concerned about their son until the very end. She abandoned my nephew, who is also my beloved nephew, proving herself to be a person less than human. I never warned her about her actions. She will realize her mistakes only when she has lost everything. I am Sarah, a 45-year-old woman living alone. I work in the medical field and have a busy job. I chose to work in healthcare because both of my parents died from illnesses. My father passed away when I was still in elementary school. Even now, I think about how he could have been saved if medical science had been as advanced as it is today. Losing my father at a young age left my family in a difficult financial situation. My mother worked day and night to support my brother and me, but she eventually collapsed at her workplace due to overwork. My brother graduated from medical school and became a resident physician. I graduated from the same medical school, but from the health sciences department, becoming a clinical laboratory technician. Just when I thought we could finally make our mother's life easier, she passed away, as if relieved after ensuring her children were independent. My brother and I, as medical professionals, vowed to help as many patients as possible in memory of our parents. My brother lived an extremely tough life as a neurosurgeon, yet he found time to have a relationship, get married, and have a child. The child, my nephew, was named Larry. Larry was intelligent and well-behaved, and I adored him. As a doctor's son and an only child, he lived a comfortable life. But I couldn't resist buying him things like educational toys and picture books, sending them whenever I could. I didn't understand much about toy trains, but I think I ended up buying quite a lot for him. I didn't have children of my own, so I wasn't sure, but I felt an unconditional love for Larry, wanting to buy him everything he might like. I imagine my feelings were closer to those of a grandparent than a mother. If my parents had been alive, they would have been overjoyed at the birth of their first grandchild. Larry, who looked so much like my brother as a child, would have been their pride and joy. Meanwhile, I was working as a clinical laboratory technician at a fairly large hospital. The results of clinical tests are essential for doctors to make diagnoses and treatment decisions. My job was demanding but rewarding, as I aimed to provide accurate results quickly, while also offering compassionate support to patients and their families. I believe I was well suited for the job. Like my brother, I was strong in science and had no trouble handling the multitasking required of a clinical laboratory technician. However, the job was demanding, and the pay was not very high. Despite the emotional labor involved, it was always the doctors who had the final say. Even if my advice was completely opposite to the doctor's, the patient would immediately accept the doctor's word. I sometimes felt that technicians were seen as inferior to doctors and not trusted as much. I understood that our role was to support the doctors, who directly saved lives through surgery and treatment. Still, it was challenging to continue in a job where it was hard to feel like I was truly helping people. Additionally, I struggled with the complex relationships between doctors and nurses. I knew the personal issues, not professional ones, often caused these problems. But seeing how differently patients were treated based on whether the staff liked them or not made me start considering a career change. Then, I learned that my brother had developed a brain tumor. Since he was a neurosurgeon, he joked about how it helped him better understand his patient's pain. But the situation was far more serious than he let on. Although a senior doctor operated on him, the tumor had spread too far, and it quickly returned. My brother's condition deteriorated rapidly, and he passed away before long. Just before he lost the ability to speak, he asked me to take care of his son. He didn't ask his wife, he asked me, his sister. I interpreted this as a sign that he had reasons for his request. Determined to honor my brother's dying wish, I vowed to support Larry in every way possible. This included financial support. I paid for all of Larry's educational expenses. I made sure to keep in regular contact with him, asking if he needed anything or if there was anything troubling him at work. Though he had a mother, I reassured him that I was there for him, no matter what. There were times when Larry would hesitate, as if wanting to say something, but holding back. A month later, Larry finally reached out to me. "Auntie, there's something I want to talk to you about, but I know you're busy with work." It was then that I learned the true nature of Amanda. Larry was an only child and, like his father, was a bright and diligent student. My brother had recognized Larry's potential early on and spared no effort or expense to provide him with the best education possible. Larry successfully entered a prestigious private middle school. My brother was overjoyed, hoping that Larry would thrive in such an enriched environment. He wanted Larry to enjoy his student life fully, nurturing both his intellect and character. Larry had dreams of entering medical school, whether national or private, and was determined to pursue that path. However, just as Larry entered high school, his father fell ill. My brother worked as a neurosurgeon, a field known for its high income, so I believed his family wouldn't struggle financially after his passing. While Amanda, Larry's mother, might need to start working, I was confident they had enough savings to see Larry through college. My brother had been diligent about saving for Larry's education, knowing how important it was. Yet despite this, Amanda tried to transfer Larry from his private school to a public one, without even consulting him. I knew there had to be a serious reason behind her decision, so I contacted her to find out more. I was worried that Larry might have been too devastated by his father's death to continue attending school. "We can't afford to send him to a private school now that the breadwinner is gone. If he really wants to go to college, he'll have to aim for a national or public university. Larry's smart enough to get into any school, so he'll be fine." I was shocked by her callous and dismissive attitude. For a typical middle-class family, choosing public school over private due to financial constraints is understandable. But my brother's family was far from typical. They were well off. My brother had saved a substantial amount specifically for Larry's education, and I knew their finances were secure. Amanda had never worked, but they had no financial worries. After all, my brother had built a large house in a popular neighborhood for easy commuting. The basement was soundproofed and filled with guitars, reflecting my brother's passion for music. Amanda always wore luxurious clothes adorned with jewelry and designer bags. Her diamond-encrusted watch sparkled even when she attended school events. Surely, her extravagant lifestyle made her the talk of the other parents. It made no sense that she would consider transferring Larry to a public school unless there was another reason. I suspected she was lying about their financial situation to justify her decision to Larry. Larry had done nothing wrong in excelling at his private school. If he transferred to a public school, it would be much harder for him to prepare for medical school. He would likely need extra tutoring to catch up, which would be just as expensive as the private school's tuition. I pleaded with Amanda to let Larry stay at his current school. I promised to cover all the expenses from school fees to tutoring and even college entrance exam costs. Amanda immediately changed her tune. "Oh, in that case, I'll start gathering the necessary documents to update the bank account for school payments." She didn't even bother to thank me before moving forward with her new plan. At that moment, I began to seriously question Amanda's character. I suspected she was trying to transfer Larry out of his school to protect her own lifestyle after my brother's income was gone. I even wondered if she was planning to use my brother's savings, intended for Larry, for herself. However, I chose not to confront her directly. Even if I had, she wouldn't have been honest with me. And I didn't want to risk alienating her, as that could make things worse for Larry at home. As long as I could support Larry and ensure his future, nothing else mattered. Amanda could do as she pleased, as long as she didn't harm Larry. I was also troubled by something my brother said shortly after receiving his terminal diagnosis.
"You know, ever since I told her about my condition, she stopped visiting me in the hospital."
I tried to console him, suggesting that maybe it was just too painful for her to see him suffering.
"Maybe, but I think there's more to it than that. She might already have someone else, and if that's the case, Larry will be the one who suffers."
My brother continued to worry about Larry until his final moments, asking me to look after him. He must have sensed that his wife couldn't be trusted with their son's well-being. After Larry asked to talk, I immediately took time off work. Though I had just started a new job, I explained the situation to my manager, and a senior colleague covered for me. Initially, I thought about meeting Larry at a cafe or restaurant, but I decided to bring him to my home instead, where we could talk more privately. "After Dad was hospitalized, Mom used to visit him every day. I saw her bring back his laundry, so I know she was going. But then she started visiting less often. I never heard about the doctors giving Dad only a month to live. I was at school, so she told me later at home. Mom said your dad only has a month left, just like that." Her words were shockingly insensitive. No matter how heartbroken she was, she could have chosen her words more carefully for Larry's sake. Then she started saying, "What's the point of visiting if he can't be saved?" At first, I thought Mom was just overwhelmed by grief. But then she started going out a lot, and before long, she was hardly ever home. There was a man who kept calling our house, saying he couldn't reach Mom on her phone. My brother had accurately read his wife's true nature, even from his hospital. Financial support had prevented any disputes over money. It couldn't change Amanda's behavior. Mom doesn't even leave a note when she goes out. At first, she would call to say she'd be home late, but now she doesn't even do that. She just leaves some money on the table and tells me to get my dinner. Larry, your school doesn't provide lunch, right? Does she at least make you a lunchbox? No, not once since I started high school. She used to give me money for the cafeteria, but now she doesn't even do that. I was outraged by the situation I had failed to fully grasp. My brother had warned me, yet I hadn't been vigilant enough about Amanda's actions. I had naively thought that providing financial support was enough. I don't know who Mom is meeting, and the amount of shopping she does hasn't changed. She spends all her time on her phone, even late at night. And there's more shopping than ever. Bags, clothes, I've never seen before. How could a mother who claimed she couldn't afford her son's education indulge herself so much? My anger boiled as I realized the depth of her selfishness. Amanda never truly loved my brother, nor did she care about their son. She probably married him for his income as a doctor, and now that he was gone, she had abandoned her responsibilities as both a wife and a mother. I was certain she had found another man or was going out to meet multiple men. There was no other reason for her obsession with expensive clothes and accessories. I couldn't just tell Larry his mother was cheating on his father, even if it was true. It was better for Larry to endure his situation until he could move out and live on his own. I wanted to take Larry in, but with my night shifts, I was often not at home. So I offered Larry a key to my house, telling him he could come over anytime he needed to. Larry smiled, relieved, knowing he had a safe place to go. It's crucial for a child to feel they have a trusted adult they can turn to. I reassured him that he could always reach out to me no matter what happened. I also sent him money via his phone so he could buy lunch, and then I sent him home. I finally understood the fear and anxiety my brother had left for his son. I realized I needed to do more to ensure Larry's safety and future. From then on, I dedicated myself to supporting Larry and my work. I attended school events, an experience I never would have had as a single woman without children. It felt like a unique and valuable life experience, almost like I was getting to play the role of a mother. When Larry entered his final year of high school, Amanda suddenly summoned me to her house. Larry's teacher had called her about his future plans, but since she knew nothing about his school life, the conversation was completely disjointed.
I don't know anything about school events or parent-teacher meetings, so I've been telling them to contact you instead.
Amanda had never attended a single school event, not even the parent-teacher conferences or school festivals. I had even gone to Larry's parent-teacher meetings. The teachers were shocked when I introduced myself as Larry's aunt, who was acting as his guardian. Most parents were so passionate about their children's education that they sometimes argued with the teachers, causing delays for other families. In contrast, Amanda hadn't shown her face even once, nor did she know about Larry's aspirations for medical school.
So, Larry wants to go to medical school, huh? Did you know that?
He told me back in his first year. I replied in a sharp tone, and Amanda snorted and crossed her arms.
You're quite the fool, aren't you? Spending all that money on a nephew who isn't even your own child. I guess I understand, though. You've got nothing else to spend it on, being single and all.
Amanda often looked down on me for being single.
You're just a lab tech, aren't you? I looked at the average salary, and it's pretty low. You're nothing like your brother, who was on a whole different level.
Her face lit up with amusement as she said this. She seemed to enjoy belittling others as a way to relieve her own stress. I felt no need to engage with her insults. Amanda sneered, implying that I was wasting my life savings on Larry in the hopes of securing my old age.
Spending all your money on that kid? What's your plan? Hoping he'll take care of you when you're old and gray? How pathetic.
Are you counting on someone else to take care of you in your old age? I'll take care of myself, thanks. My tone was calm, but my words were laced with contempt.
You're just a bitter old woman. Why don't you go find yourself a rich man if you're so jealous? Oh, right, you can't.
I'm not jealous, so no worries there. Amanda, clearly agitated, continued searching for words to attack me. From the beginning, I never liked her, but since my brother loved her, I kept my feelings to myself. Besides, it's not uncommon for someone to be unpleasant to strangers but kind to their family. I had hoped Amanda might be one of those people. However, her affection was only ever directed at money. She had clung to my brother's income and inheritance, and now that it was gone, she was looking for someone else to provide for her. In my eyes, her behavior was nothing short of disgraceful. But for my brother, she must have seemed like an attractive woman at the time. Now it was time to get to the point of this meeting. We should discuss Larry's future, I said firmly, urging her to move on to the real reason she had called me over. Flustered and angry, Amanda threw more insults at me.
Medical school is expensive, isn't it? You're the one who encouraged him to go, so you'll take care of everything, right?
I didn't push him into anything. I'm just supporting his dreams.
How much are you planning to waste on him? With that much money, you should be helping out your sister-in-law who lost her breadwinner.
Are you really asking for handouts from the same person you've been mocking for being single and low income? I asked bluntly, genuinely curious about her thought process. Amanda screeched in response.
Don't you dare show this attitude in front of Larry.
This woman was clearly unfit to be a mother. Once Larry was accepted into a medical school, I resolved to make sure he lived independently. My brother had set aside a significant amount for Larry's education, so I knew she had drained that account too. Where did all the money go? I know the bank name and account number. I'll find out when and where it was withdrawn.
Then don't bother asking.
Why are you so angry? Is there something you don't want me to find out? Knowing she would lie, I pressed her with a calm demeanor. It's natural for you to start working now that your husband's income is gone. Are you looking for a job?
Why should I lower myself to working like some commoner? Your brother should have left more money for us.
Did she think she was royalty? On top of that, she was ungrateful enough to criticize my brother's income, even though she had lived off it comfortably. If you're not a commoner, then what are you? My brother was a doctor, yes, but he was just a regular person. Well, maybe a leech who drains savings without contributing isn't exactly a wife or a mother.
Shut up, you low-income nobody. Your brother's nothing without me, so you better know where you stand.
It must be exhausting to live in such a delusional world, thinking she was so noble, while the reality was so different. But I was able to stay calm because I knew something she didn't. My life wasn't as pathetic as she assumed. There was no point in continuing this conversation. I decided to focus solely on protecting Larry until his exams were over. Amanda had burned through all the money she had, including the educational fund, and was now desperate. She was the kind of person who would come begging for money from the very person she'd looked down on. With Larry's exams approaching, I didn't want him in that toxic environment any longer. I gave him a key to my home so he could come and go as he pleased. Larry, now a high school senior, was physically stronger than his mother, so I didn't worry about her harming him. He stayed focused, improving both academically and mentally in time for the exams. He was accepted into several universities and chose the highest-ranking national university's medical school. When I asked him why he chose that particular school, he told me it was because his father had respected one of the professors there.
Dad respected a doctor who works at that university's hospital. I wanted to make him proud.
I was the only family left, but Larry's determination and my work kept me from feeling lonely. I felt a deep sense of pride when Larry asked me to attend his graduation. He hadn't even mentioned it to his mother. To me, it felt like I had finally become the mother figure Larry needed. I proudly attended the ceremony as Larry's guardian. Watching the young students laughing, crying, and hugging each other for photos made me tear up as well. I wondered if my parents had felt the same way watching my brother and me grow up, shedding tears of pride and hope for our futures. After the ceremony, Larry and I took photos together with some of his friends. Larry had plans to celebrate with his classmates afterward, but there was one more thing I wanted to do. We went to Amanda's house, where she was waiting.
Oh, you're back. All dressed up like you're his mother or something. How ridiculous.
Says the real mother, who wasn't even invited to the ceremony. There's nothing wrong with doting on a beloved nephew. But today would be the last time I would have to deal with this woman.
So, which university did you choose?
It doesn't matter. Why do you care?
Why won't you tell me? Still sulking, I see. You're such a pain. And Sarah, I heard you bought Larry an expensive custom-made suit. How generous of you.
Yes.
You're so weird, Sarah. Spending all your money on someone else's kid. Are you in debt or something? Don't overdo it or you'll regret it. Just make sure Larry takes care of you in return.
This was the first time Larry had seen his mother insult me like this. His eyes widened in shock as he looked back and forth between us. I'm sorry you had to hear that, Larry, but sometimes it's better to know the truth before you walk away. I lowered my voice, ready to reveal everything. I hope you won't regret your decisions, Amanda. Finally, it was time to lay everything out in the open. You've been trying so hard to convince yourself that I'm low income, haven't you? But that's clearly not the case, given how much I've been able to support Larry financially. I reached into my bag and pulled out my ID card, showing it to her.
Oh, what's this? Respiratory medicine.
I had changed careers. I was no longer a lab technician. I had become a doctor. I switched careers a while ago. I wanted to save lives. It wasn't an easy path, especially since I started medical school in my 30s. I had to study for exams while still working. Balancing work and medical school required determination and grit. Once I started my training as a resident, I realized that I had other skills in neurology, so I chose respiratory medicine instead. There was a shortage of specialists in that field, and I wanted to be there for patients until the end of their lives. It took years to complete my training, and I'm still honing my skills.
There's no way you're a doctor. You're lying.
I've been a doctor for quite some time now. You just never noticed because you were too busy with your own life.
Mom, I've always appreciated what you've done for me. That's why I came to say goodbye. Thanks to Auntie, I've been able to continue my studies and get into my first choice university. She's been like a parent to me, attending school events, even though she was incredibly busy.
What? That's just because she's a lonely, childless woman.
Do you think being a doctor is easy? Auntie studied and worked hard to become a doctor, all while looking after me, and yet she always found time to be there for me. Mom, please just thank her. If you don't, I'm afraid I'll end up hating you.
For the first time, Larry was expressing his true feelings. If his mother couldn't be moved by this, then she wasn't a mother at all.
I never asked her to do any of that. She just decided to pay for everything herself.
So you were planning to let me drop out of school even if it meant giving up on my dreams?
The clothes and jewelry you spent all that money on, how long do you think they'll last? Anyone can see that once the money runs out, you'll have nothing left.
You're just jealous because I have a boyfriend who still loves me. I'm moving in with him after Larry leaves. He's going to take care of me.
Could there really be a man willing to support a woman like her? Perhaps she was putting on a facade for him, but the relationship seemed doomed from the start. If that's what you want, go ahead. Larry seemed surprisingly at peace with the situation. Now that you know I'm a doctor, there's one more thing I want to tell you. I've had a long-term partner too. We've been together for years, though we never felt the need to get married or live together. He's been busy with his political career, so we've kept our relationship private.
Auntie, you've been dating a politician?
He wasn't always a politician. We met in college, and after he decided not to pursue a medical career, he went into politics. For someone like Amanda, who equated her partner's income with her own status, this revelation must have been shocking. My partner and I never prioritized money in our relationship. Instead, we focused on mutual respect, understanding, and supporting each other's careers. Like Amanda, we found value in our work and the contributions we made to society. So most of what you assumed about me was completely wrong. It's a good lesson. Don't jump to conclusions, especially at your age. I added, enjoying the satisfaction of finally setting the record straight.
Mom, I kept hoping you'd notice all the things I was losing while you were out having fun. But it's clear now that you never cared. I'm going to become a doctor like Dad, and I'll help people. I hope you find happiness too, Mom.
Larry's words were sincere. Despite everything, he still wished his mother happiness. No matter how flawed a parent may be, they are still a parent to their child. That's an unchangeable fact. Now the fresh green leaves are shining brightly in the spring sunlight. Larry is working hard as a medical student, fully dedicated to his studies. He never told his mother which university he was attending or where he was living. That was his decision, and I respected it. As I strive to pass the national exams and continue my own training, Larry occasionally visits me with questions about his studies. We share meals and talk about our dreams and goals for the future. I'm excited to see which field of medicine Larry will choose. I'm sure my brother would be proud of the person Larry has become. Now I want to save as many lives as I can for the family I couldn't protect.